Alright, welcome back, guys. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to walk you guys through my annual generator maintenance. And here's my list of what I've done since the installation date. And this is who it's done by. I have these taken out for the moment so that the company that installed it isn't in there. I've had some other off maintenance. Supposed to do it annually is what I do because of the 5-minute runtime, the milkiness it gets in there. But last year the only thing I did was replace the battery. Did that in March, and then I had a blown fuse issue I did a short video on. And today I'm going to do my spark plugs and oil filter and touch up any of the rust that might be on the gas line. I use 5W30 full synthetic Mobile 1. It's about $10 a quart. It calls for 1.9 quarts. Got the Generac filter, part number 070185E. Got the spark plug gapper, and the gaps on the spark plug are 0.76 millimeter or 0.030 inch. Socket for that, some Rust-Oleum touch-up paint for the gas line, a bucket to drain the oil in, some sandpaper to sand down. If I've got any rust spots like here, sand that a little bit, touch it up, but the pipe doesn't look too bad at all. It's about 6 years old. There's not a lot of rust anywhere on it, and it's holding up really good. The flexible gas line still looks good as new. It's had no sun damage to it because of this automotive electrical casing I put on it to keep the sun off of it. And the old deck, the sun would actually beat down on that because the old deck ended here. This wasn't here, so the sun was able to hit it. But now with this new deck that's here on the pool, it doesn't really hit the back of this. But first thing I like to do is change my spark plugs. The reason being, this is going to get hot when you run it to get your oil warmed up, so you don't want to be digging around on your spark plugs with the engine being hot. Plus, I like for it to run after I change the spark plugs. I like for it to run so I can hear if there's any misses, make sure the spark plugs are in good shape. So we'll get started. Make sure you turn this off. Push off on your control panel. Some people like to turn the breakers and stuff off, but I'm not sure that's necessary. If you hit off, it's not going to start on you. Last time I changed these spark plugs was May of 2018. That's what they look like. So even though it may not look like they need changed, they're $2. Just go ahead and change them. So I've seen a couple of videos of people complaining about being able to get back down in here to get this spark plug out. At least on this one, this is a model 6551. It's not bad to get to with a wrench at all or a socket. Just unscrews right out of there. calls for a RC12YC. That's from the last change out, which was Champion. They seem to have done pretty good. And your gap, 0.76 millimeter. So I'll check the gap. Okay. Confirm the gap right, so we'll put these back in. Alright, spark plugs are changed. So now I'm just going to turn it on. Some people like to let theirs run for like 10 minutes. It's about 87 degrees out here and it's pretty humid. I think a couple minutes will be fine. And while it's running, I'm going to listen to see if there's any misses or any skips or any jumping around, and test those spark plugs. And the engine's not hot when I changed those, so it was a lot more comfortable digging around in there. So just hit manual. So the oil filter is nice and warm. It rained today pretty good, so I'll put my old used sleeping bag down. My drain bucket. Oil filter and clean. So once that gets done with its warm-up cycle, the next thing I'm going to do is take the drain and drain the oil. Then you want to take your cap off your oil fill. That way it can pull some air down through there and allow it to run out a lot better. But so you can see what this oil looks like. And this is 2-year-old oil. So it doesn't look too bad. The inner part of the cap, you can see a little bit of that white milky substance. That's from the runtime. That isn't enough, so it doesn't burn all the water condensation off, and that's why you should change it every year. I thought I had changed it last year, but the only thing I did last year was change the battery. That's a 540 battery. I also called one of the dealers today and was asking him about the software update. Supposedly there's a software update out there that allows it to run more than 5 minutes. If that's the case, I definitely want to try to get my software and my firmware updated. And he said they do that through Mobile Link. Now they just send it and it automatically updates it. So we're starting to get full here. Let me set you guys back over here. Can really see that milky substance in there. So as that continues to dribble out of the drain line, this is a magnet that I just put a hose clamp on and a handle. This will help pull any of the metal shavings out. Take off your crankcase heater, put your towel under your filter, sometimes that'll come off, sometimes you'll have to get a wrench. You'll have some residual oil that'll drip out of there. I actually like this design on this engine with the oil filter aiming down like that, because on the Kohlers, they're on the top of the engine and the oil filters are literally upside down. So as soon as they're on top of the engine like this, and as soon as you unscrew it, oil just runs out. But I'm thinking maybe with their design, once you pull the drain plug, the oil all runs out of the filter at the same time, and there's not much left in the filter. That's your genuine Generac part. Doesn't have to be, but I have like 10 of these things from where I had some and didn't know I had some, and then ordered some more, and then ordered some more. Of course, the dealerships will tell you that everything has to be a 100% genuine Generac or you void your warranty. This was installed in 2015 and is now 2021, so my 5-year extended is up, so I don't have a warranty anymore. So I think all that oil's out of there. So we'll crack open a new one, a new container. Wipe this old oil off of here. And then always use new oil. Dip your finger in there, dip your finger in. Kind of put some around the seal here. And screw on your, put your new one on. And that should be plenty fine. You don't need to stick a wrench on it and crank that sucker down like it's a bolt. It just needs to be on there real good, hand tight, so that it's not gonna drip any oil out. And that's it. I have a little bit in there to wipe up. Put your crankcase heater back on, put your magnet back on. Put your cap back on. Be able to refill it with oil. It calls for 1.9 quarts. Here's your funnel. It's really a weird place. It's really a weird place. I suppose you could get one of the bigger funnels with a longer neck to put in there, so got one down the hatch. Then you need to figure 0.9 of this one. Usually I'll dump it in to around the 200 that's on the side of these. That's about 0.9 from here up, or a little less. If you put too much in, you can always take your drain it down a little bit. It's not a big deal. Just make sure you don't leave it overfilled. It's about half, maybe. Alright, so we will stop there, put the cap back on. So filter's on, cap is on, spark plug's on. I'm going to run it long enough just to allow that filter to fill up with oil and then turn it right back off. Wait about 30 seconds and then I'll check the oil level and see how much more I need to add or how much more I need to drain. So always keep the rag underneath of there so that in the event of a power outage, we need to shut it off every 24 hours and check the oil to make sure it doesn't run out of oil and blow up the engine. It does have a low oil shut-off pressure switch, but I would never depend on that to work the way it's supposed to, because 9 out of 10 times engines that have those usually don't, especially if they fault. We'll check the level. Of course, it's going to be all over the stick because we just had it running, so it's all on the stick. So it looks like we are just a tad bit under. Should be up to that second bubble. We're in a safe range, but we can give it a couple more. Alright, so we should be good on the oil. I don't see any leaks. There's a little bit that's there, but you may get some residual. You shouldn't have anything dripping. So over the next couple of days, I'll just usually come out, take a look at that, make sure it's not dripping anything and puddling up. And if need to, give it another half a crank. Usually I don't. Usually it's fine where it's at. So for the gas line, I'm not seeing a tremendous amount to be worried about. I mean, this is probably the only place that I see any rust on there. And generally, if you have it, it's going to be underneath, just from where it's all the water's running over it and dripping off of the pipe. But I'm not seeing anything that looks like it needs attention. This is just all mold from not getting any sunlight. So just to touch that up real quick, take the sandpaper and just kind of lightly sand off anything that's loose on it. You don't need to hone down on it. So this red that you're seeing is the primer that's underneath of that. This is good stuff. That's what I put on it 6 years ago, and it's in the shape that it's in now. And then just touch it up real quick. That keeps the rust from starting and taking off. I'm really pleased with how good that pipe looks, and the stake here that's holding up the gas line. It's all holding up pretty good. So in the first video I did, I had a few questions. Some people were flipping out about thinking this was actually PVC gas line, and it's not. That's just a vent that has to be 5 feet away from the generator because this will purge gas out of it. So that is not the gas line. The actual gas line goes into the ground. It goes over to the 550 gallon or 500 gallon tank, which I've never filled since we've had the generator. We've never had an outage long enough. We've had 6 hours probably in like a week, and the needle never even moved. Go see how much gas is in there. I hardly ever look at it. The thing about propane is if you have a leak and you're not home, you could leak out all your gas while you're at work and have no idea how low on gas you are. So when they filled this to about 90, 85 to 90. That was 6 years ago, and I still have like 68. Now in the wintertime that'll drop down to like 62, because when it gets colder it seems like there's less in there than there actually is. But regulators have been fine, I haven't had any issues. I do own the tank, so if you can opt to own your tank, do that. Don't rent a tank. It's just ridiculous to rent a tank. So that's my annual maintenance. That's what I do for mine. I'll add that onto the new record, and we should be good to go. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe.